Yes, I'm a bedside teller. Maybe you never heard of that before, but I and members of the guild volunteer. We go to the hospital and we tell stories to patients. And being a bedside teller is being a little bit like a magician, because when you tell the right story to the patient, he levitates off the bed, gets in the story, and flies out of the hospital. He forgets his prognosis, his procedure, and his pain. And before COVID, we did a scientific study that anybody who had pain and heard a story, the pain dropped at least 1 or 2 points. Now, that means that for 10 minutes, that patient is distracted and he's out of the hospital. And then there's more magic, because sometimes something you tell about, your dog or your cat or your garden or your wedding or your vacation, prompts that patient to want to talk and tell his story. And then the magic goes on for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, a half an hour, that patient is not in the hospital. And I just love doing that. And so before you all run out and decide you're going to do that with your friends and family, and that's a good idea if you stay with you and your family, but there's some parameters. Number 1, the story that you tell. You can't tell about the grueling pain the wolf suffered when he went down the chimney and landed in that boiling pot of whatever the heck he was making. You can't describe the awful agony of drinking poison. There's no death and dying. You have to find happy, uplifting stories. And whatever you do, avoid politics and religion. Number 2 is HIPAA. We all know about those papers we blindly sign without reading. It's entirely possible when you get in that hospital locally, you're going to have a connection to the patient. Either he might work where you worked, or go to your church, or your kid knows him. Somehow you might know that person. You cannot go back outside the hospital to your work, church, or whatever and say, "Hey, Henry Smith's in the hospital with 2 kidney stones." Henry doesn't want the world to know he has kidney stones. That's up to him. So remember, what happens in the patient's room stays in the patient's room. And thirdly, you're a representative of the hospital, but not an official representative. You cannot make a diagnosis or recommend some exercise that helped you when your back went out. And no home remedies either. Now, part of that too is you might get in over your head, because the patient might have a complaint or a concern that's not within your job description. The best thing you can do in that case is pass it on to Deborah Lowry or somebody else. And because I'm Betty Ann, because things happen to me, this happened to me last week. I went in the patient's room, and the patient was a man, and I knew that because he had the gown on. And there was a woman there, and I did not, never do this, assume that it was his wife. It could be his girlfriend, his sister. 2 of them were in the room, and I walked over and did my spiel, and I said, "Would you like to hear a story?" He said, "I'll tell you a story." Now, you have to know that there's other storytellers in this world. They're not trained at ETSU, but no matter where they are, if they're in the hospital or not, they want to tell a story. And I said, "Fine, I'll just sit right down here and you can tell me your story." I have to describe him, and I feel mean doing this because no one looks their best in the hospital. But he had bushy mustache and bushy eyebrows, and his hair stood on end. It was salt and pepper, and something was wrong with one of his eyes. He looked like a pirate without a patch. And he starts, he says, I was over in Quinlan Rehab Center, and they decided they had to take me to the emergency room. So they just shoved me on a gurney and put me out in the ambulance. And I'm going, no, not this kind of stuff. He goes, they put me in the ambulance and put me over here in the emergency room, and they parked me in the hall for a couple of hours. And then finally, they take me to my room, and they realize that I haven't eaten all day. So the nurse, she comes in with this food, and that's when they realize they forgot my teeth. And they didn't know what to do. But I solved my own problem. I just borrowed the teeth from the guy next to me. And I'm there like, you know, I do this to you, but when people do it to me, and I'm like, you didn't really do that. Did you really do that? And he was so good that he held it. He didn't, he held it. And I'm like, you tell me you didn't do that. You know, and finally, the woman started laughing, and I knew. I said, oh, you had me. Yeah. I said, but I seriously though, I'm here to tell stories, and I would like to tell you a story, and would you like to hear it? And he said, yes. And I said, all right. He said, well, it's a personal story about something that happened to me the week before this week. So I live in a nice neighborhood over there in the tree streets, and everybody gets along. We're all neighbors. And the neighbor across the street from me has a ferocious dog. It's big and it's black and it looks like a bear. And she used to keep it on a chain. And she's got two, this street and this street. And if you walk down either one of those streets, that dog takes off from that porch and tears across with that chain, howling at the moon, and you're terrified that that chain isn't going to hold. Well, it's a nice neighborhood, and she figured that wasn't very friendly, so finally she fenced in the back part of her yard. Still, I cannot go over to her house and have a conversation because the dog goes ballistic. She has to come across the street to my yard to talk to me. So she calls me up, and when you have neighbors that close, you usually don't have to call. You just run over and that kind of thing. So she calls me up and she says, Benny, my sister's in a car accident and I have to leave and I don't have anybody to watch Zeus. And I said, well, Julia, I don't know if I'm the person that you should ask. Because Zeus is bigger than I am. And she said, no, it's not. It's easy. Oh, please, you have to help me. I don't know what else to do. My sister, I gotta go. Come over, I'll show you. It's really easy. All right. So I go across the street. Dog goes ballistic. And the pen is here. The house is here. They're only 6 feet apart. She says, this is what you do. Go in the kitchen, mix up his food, and leave the kitchen door wide open. Then go the 6 feet over to the chain link fence, open the fence, grab his collar, and say, Zeus, food. And Zeus will just go into the house, and then you can shut the door. Don't anticipate. You've heard too many of my stories. So I do what I'm supposed to do. I grab a hold of the dog. I say, Zeus, food. He goes, Whoa! Naturally, I let go. Zeus is gone. I don't know what to do. It's dark. He's dark. By the time I get in my car, it's dark. I can't do anything. I can't call the SPCA or animal control. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I just go home and I just toss and turn all night. What am I going to do? In the morning, I'm going to have to figure this out. I get up in the morning and I look out the window. Zeus is on the porch. Not my porch, her porch. Oh, thank you. So I run over there and I open the kitchen door. He goes right in the kitchen because he's hungry. Shut the door and I say, you're staying in her house all day today. I don't care what you do in there. You're not getting out. No way am I letting you out. Okay. But then I look down on the porch, and there's a mess. And it's muddy, it's dirty, it's bloody, it's furry. The dog killed something. I can't leave that there. So I get the hose and I start to, clean it up a little bit. And that fur is white, and it has 2 long ears. And it's a bunny with a pink ribbon around its neck. And the worst of it is, I know whose bunny it is. It's my neighbor on the other side. This is terrible. This is really terrible. Our happy little neighborhood is going to dissolve. The people with the bunny are going to be mad. They're going to be mad at the lady with the dog. The lady with the dog's going to be mad at me. I'm going to be, and you know what? I watched Judge Judy. And if you lose control of your dog, you don't have control of the dog, guess whose fault it is? What am I going to do? Now, I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed to tell you what I did do, but I did it. And I picked up that rabbit and I took it home. And I got Dawn soap. Dawn's good for everything. And I washed the carcass of the rabbit. And I could see the places where the tooth went in, And you also know me, and you know this is true. I'm a seamstress. So I sewed up all the little spots of the rabbit. Come on. And I got a new pink ribbon. Now the rabbit's dead, and there's nothing I can do about that, right? But I went over to my neighbor's house, and I got the hutch open, and I fixed the straw like a little bed, and I put the little bunny in the bed like he was sleeping, and I went home. Now, I know that my neighbors are going to find a dead bunny, but that's too bad. Your bunny died. Nobody knows about the dog Zeus, and nobody knows about me. We're all in the clear. Perfect crime. It's afternoon, then I hear a whole commotion going on next door, and I go, uh-oh, they found the rabbit. Well, good neighbor that I am, I have to go over and get my condolences. So I come over and I said, what's the matter? They said, our bunny's dead. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, but that's not the problem. Well, what? She goes, he died 3 days ago, and we buried him in the garden. I said to that patient, you got me, and I got you.